You're muted.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome to the Sister Show. I'm glad that you guys have came back for another episode. Please like, share, comment. We're going to be talking about human trafficking today, right? I have a special guest um, that's dear to my heart. Her name is Soraya Hastings, and she is a product of human trafficking, right? But she's now an entrepreneur. She's an author. She's an amazing person. So now we're going to share her story, and then we're going to hop into the conversation.
So I learned being a prostitute that there was only three ways of getting out of the what they call the game. It was either being sold to another pimp, going to jail, or being dead. And for me, I was sold, physically sold from one pimp to another.
For over 17 years, Soraya Hastings lived the life of a prostitute and drug addict, searching for the love she never had.
The top two biggest things that led me into the lifestyle of prostitution was money and acceptance.
From the time she was a toddler, Soraya was exposed to sex and using drugs. At 4 years old, she was molested by a close relative and would be for years to come. And she never said anything.
All my family members was doing the same thing that I was being shown. So there was no purpose of me reaching out and saying there's something wrong with this or help me or get me out of this because it was so normal.
Still, she hoped to one day find someone to love her. But the words of a family member gave her no hope that would ever happen.
Every little girl wants to be married, wants to have their knight in shining armor come. And he said the only way I would ever have that is if I was in a pimp and hoe relationship. And that was all I was good, would be able to lay on my back.
That thought was cemented in her mind when at 12, she was gang raped at a party.
I was then known in my whole city as the slut, the hoe, the girl that you could take to the bathroom and do whatever with, and she'll be fine with it.
Having sex was the only way Soraya thought she could get attention. But inside, she hated who she had become.
It got to the extreme a point where I just started trying to commit suicide and started cutting myself. I tried to burn my body. I would put fire to my arms just so that I wouldn't feel the pain anymore.
At 18, she was recruited by a pimp and walked into a world where her only worth was her body.
The minute after he told me that I was going to be his hoe, that same night is when I began to actually officially prostitute and start walking the streets and going into the truck driving parking lots and making deals with truck drivers.
And when she couldn't make the quota, her pimp threatened to kill her. She escaped from him, but soon met another pimp who got her hooked on cocaine and crystal meth. Soraya would spend the next 8 years being trapped in drug addiction and prostitution, living in 33 different states with pimps too numerous to count.
When I was able to take a shower, I would scrub my body and I could never get the smell of whatever man. I didn't even know these men's names off my body.
Then, when she was 28, Soraya found out she was pregnant with her second child by a pimp she was dating. The father of her first child made Soraya give the baby over to her family. This time, it would be different.
And when I found out that I was pregnant, I knew at that moment that something had to change, that I couldn't continue doing the same thing.
She left her pimp and traveled thousands of miles to a pregnancy resource center in New England. While there, a counselor prayed with her.
And when she started saying the salvation message to me and to accept Jesus into my heart, there was a rush that was like never before that came over my body. And there was a warm feeling and just the most peaceful, most serene feeling I can't even put into words. All of the disgust, feeling of me constantly wanting to shower and take all this nasty feeling off of my body, it had literally been lifted off of me in that very moment. I no longer had the desire to use crystal meth. I had no desire to smoke cigarettes. That was my first moment of the Holy Spirit just filling me with his love. So I learned being a prostitute that there was only three ways of getting out of what they call the game. It was either being sold to another pimp, going to jail, or being dead. So I learned being a prostitute that there was only three ways of getting out of what they call the game. It was either being sold to another pimp,
Then, when she was 28, Soraya found out she was pregnant with her second child by a pimp she was dating. The father of her first child made Soraya give the baby over to her family. This time, it would be different.
And when I found out that I was pregnant, I knew at that moment that something had to change, that I couldn't continue doing the same thing.
She left her pimp and traveled thousands of miles to a pregnancy resource center in New England. While there, a counselor prayed with her.
And when she started saying the salvation message to me and to accept Jesus into my heart, there was a rush that was like never before that came over my body. And there was a warm feeling and just the most peaceful, most serene feeling I can't even put into words. All of the disgust, feeling of me constantly wanting to shower and take all this nasty feeling off of my body, it had literally been lifted off of me in that very moment. I no longer had the desire to use crystal meth. I had no desire to smoke cigarettes. That was my first moment of the Holy Spirit just filling me with his love that I had been looking for my whole entire life.
Soon, Soraya had her baby boy. Now at a faith-based residential program, she realized her need to repent.
I started asking God to forgive me of my sins. Jesus forgave me when he died on the cross. So if he could forgive my sins and the things that I committed against him, then who was I not to be able to forgive the people that did things to me?
Today, Soraya has a job in the healthcare industry and living in a new home with her son, Noah. She's also a staff assistant at a women's shelter where she helps women transform their lives through the love of Jesus Christ. She's written a book about her journey called No More Games.
I love my life today. There's so much freedom in knowing who Jesus is. It's amazing. If you feel that your sins that you have committed are overwhelming and that you will never be able to be accepted by Jesus Christ, know that no sin is too great for his love.
Wow. Wow. I want to say welcome, Soraya, for coming and for sharing your story. Watching this video was real emotional. What type of feelings come up when you watch that about your journey, your story?
Just the pain, that I experienced, that I was able to not only experience but mentally and emotionally survive through that, to where I can feel the pain and sympathize with women who I work with now, who are going through that same pain of coming out.
I want to say thank you for sharing your story, and just for being transparent, with other women, when it comes to human trafficking. Um, so I kind of want to talk about the world of human trafficking, because a lot of people, really don't know about human trafficking, or they hear stories about human trafficking, but you lived it, right, every day of your life. Um, and human trafficking is a lucrative business, right?
Yes.
People don't know that. People think when it comes to human trafficking, it's just, something that gets pushed under the rug. But how do you feel about the fact that you were sold from pimp to pimp? You were, part of you was taken.
Well, as I usually tell people, I felt like a piece of meat, like I was just somebody's property. There was no value to who I really was. It was whatever that man felt my value would be. One man thought that to purchase me, my value was $1,300. Another man, it was 500. It all depended on what pimp I was going to, and what part of the country I was in, and it was more of how much money can this girl make for me, uh, on pennies on a dollar, basically.
Mm. So it's like basically you were a slave to someone else, and you really didn't have a say in what happened to you or what happened around you. And there are a lot of women, a lot of girls that are going through this, right? And it's like they're
Yes,
getting bought, they're getting sold, but they're not really making any money, right? They're not really
correct,
reaping the benefits. Um,
correct,
they're getting more of the pain, the hurt, the I guess the like you called it the acceptance, right? Because that's what you were looking for. You were looking for that validation. Um, how did it make you feel when you got that validation from these men?
Well, like any other relationship or situation, there's the honeymoon phase. So, in the beginning, it feels great. Oh, I've been chosen. I'm picked. He's chosen me, out of everyone, or for some reason, I am the best. And in all honesty, they make you feel as if you uh, don't do make money, that you are on the status of, you are, in a certain type of way, famous somehow in their eyes, that you're the only one. In reality, you're just another product to them. As I tell people, I was considered damaged goods when I left one pimp to go to. I was damaged goods when I went from one state to another. They didn't want me anymore.
So it really didn't matter if you were the main or the bottom on the totem pole.
Correct. You could be any part, and that's where the manipulation comes into play, because men will make a woman feel if they are the wifey, or if they're the main, or if they're the bottom, that, oh, this is the standard, this is who it is, and they make you feel that way, when ultimately it's a game, so that they can continue to lure you to do what they want you to do.
Mm. Wow. I think that's deep because people don't understand that people are really preying on other people, especially children. Not only children, women, men. Um, this happens all the time. This happens every day, every second. Um, and it doesn't just happen, internationally, but it happens in your own back door, and it's not really talked about. Um, And I think it's amazing the fact that you are helping other women who have gone through this, right? You're what they call the ambulance, right?
Yes, yes. I'm the one that goes and, um will go step 2 someone and say, listen, you want to get out. There's not a. I give a woman, max a minute and 30 seconds to make that decision. You want out or you want to stay in? You want a better life or do you want, something? And sometimes women look at me crazy, like, am I pulling them for their, pimp or for my pimp or whatever? And I have to tell them, no, I'm not. And then they ask me, are you a renegade? Are you this? And I say, no, I'm just a woman who's been set free, who's come out of this lifestyle, which I've been in it for almost 20 years and know how it is on the other side without being in this lifestyle. So, when women finally come out and they kind of see, okay, that I'm real, that I'm not playing, that I'm not trying to use them or abuse them or um, lie to them or manipulate them into another situation, but actually show them that there's something better. Usually they tend to come around and learn how to be a woman, or some of them they stop being a child at a certain age, so they learn how to have life again.
Wow. So not only is this a lucrative business, but this is a business that, you know, people benefit from, right? And then
Hmm.
people lose themselves in the process. So we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and talk more with Soraya about human trafficking. Welcome back to the Systemist Show. We're talking about human trafficking. Please like, share, comment, tag a friend. And I have a special guest, Soraya, here, right? So the fact that not only is this a lucrative business, right, and it's affecting the economy around us, and people never thought you would amount to anything, right? They never thought that you would be an entrepreneur, an author, a mother, right? What
Yes.
made you finally say, enough is enough? I'm better than this.
Well, that's a deep question. Well, to do the surface, the surface answer with that is when as I said in my video, in my interview with 700 Club, when I came to find out that I was pregnant again. I needed my life to change. I did not want. I left my other child because I went into the life of human trafficking, and I didn't want to drag my child around the United States. So I did not want to redo the same situation again with my other child. So I had to find every inch of strength to change that. And so when um, I came to the realization and knowing who Jesus Christ is and walking through it, I was out of human trafficking for, I would say, 4 years before I realized that I was even, before somebody even told me that I was even human trafficked. So for 4 years, I went, learning who I am and changing my life and going to college and getting my education, and then somebody in a nonprofit organization came to me and said, I need you to read this book. I think you're was a victim of this. And so that's when I read this book called Road to Redemption, and that's when I learned, oh, everything that they're saying in there, it was what happened to me. And that's when I realized, oh, I was human trafficked, and my eyes opened. And when my eyes opened, that's when I took the life by the horns, and I just said, you know what, now it's time for me to save the rest of these women, to bring light and open their eyes to show them what I was shown.
You said something that was key, right? That's the education part. Because a lot of times we're not educated around the fact of we go through abuse, right? Um, like human trafficking is kind of similar to domestic violence, but the only difference is one is paid, one's not, right?
Correct.
And it's amazing how in some places domestic violence is considered normal, right? It's considered okay. And it's considered, we talk about it, we try to save lives. But with human trafficking, it's like we're hushed about it. We don't want to talk about it. Like it's quiet. What are your feelings around the fact that human trafficking is just as important as domestic violence?
Because the reason why I believe that human trafficking is as important as domestic violence is the fact that there are not just women that are involved, there's not just children that are involved, but there's also men. So this is a whole um, different platform of people who are involved in this. But because it's so quiet, because it hits on so many different levels economically, that it messes up with people's lifestyle, because now you're messing with how people live, because it's a way for them to escape. You know, you have strip clubs, you have um, pornography, you have the whole hip hop world society of what they portray of drugs and alcohol and sex. So you have all these things that go on in this world, and that's what people make money off of. A lot of rappers make money off of talking about sex and women and this, that, what they do with women, how women are, and call everything, and then they make money off of it. So when you start pulling and make a dent in that, then that's when it's at the point where you say, you know what, how can this economy be changed?
Right. And I agree with the fact that, like I said, the world that we live in is so like watered down, right? About sex, money, cars, right? And it's like people don't really understand it a lot of times what these kids see on TV, right? And the fact that you're a mother and I'm a mom and our kids are watching this, right? We have to parent kind of what we allow them to watch, right? And it's like a
Correct.
lot of this stuff is okay, or it's publicized as being okay, as normalized, right? And the
Correct.
fact remains is when people degrade women, when they talk about women, right? And when they sexually expose women, like you see in the news all the time about, whether it's a governor or a president, right? Doing things
Hmm.
to women. And then it's kind of like they have the whole Me Too movement, right? And then people are like, why do you wait so long? But the truth remains is that sometimes you don't either know how to tell somebody, or they're not going to believe you. They're going to either think you're lying, or they're going to think you want attention.
Hmm.
And is that part of why you kept quiet for so long?
Yes, because that's the biggest key. That's the number one that people that my pimps put me through, as is saying, who's going to believe you? Look at you. Look what you do. Nobody's going to trust what you say, because at the end of the day, you are a a woman who is selling her body. Why would anybody trust you? You're filth, you're this, and they had all types of names, and they called me all types of things. And after they go, see, your family don't even believe you. So they make it to where your voice, and that's why I tell people, when you read my book, you're hearing my voice that was silenced for 20 years.
Mm. See, the fact remains is that the real about it is that the economy has skewed how people feel, right? For so long that in essence, it reminds us that sometimes we can't trust the economy, the world we live in, because it's not protected. It doesn't protect us, right?
Correct.
So, how has your experience affected you as a mother and how you parent your son?
Well, I talk to my son in a way of helping him understand that, and thankfully I have uh, a community around me. I have pastors and um, church family members who help me through this. But as my pastor will always tell my son, men don't hit women, men protect women, men stand up for women. And so, I train him in a way of how he's supposed to be trained. How world is supposed to be, that men protect women, that men lift up women and show them that they are beautiful, that they are special, that they are worth something, and so it took me a while. It has taken me a while because once again, this is something new. This is not a lifestyle that I've lived ever. So to have, it's an everyday challenge because I sit there and I say, okay, how do I raise a godly man? How do I raise a man who is loving towards people, but is firm and will not be pushed around, you know. And so, thankfully, my son, he loves everyone, and he hopes, the one thing that he said when he was a little kid was, he goes, I want to be Batman because I want to save people because I don't want people to be hurting anymore. And that's the most precious thing that my son has ever said to me.
Mm. So that actually made you feel that you did the right thing by keeping him.
Yes, yes.
Mm. We're going to take a break and we're going to come back and talk more with Soraya.
How we doing?
Welcome back, you guys. Please like, share, and comment. We are talking about human trafficking with my guest, Soraya Hastings. And we were talking about how human trafficking is a lucrative business, but we were also talking about, how the economy has been affected with the fact of human trafficking, right? And we kind of were talking before the break about, motherhood, how to pretty much protect, your children. Because the fact that you're raising a son, right, and you were human trafficked by a man, right, and you lucked up to get out, right?
Mhm.
Has your son ever remotely expressed to you how he feels about what you went through? Have you shared that with him?
I haven't shared that because my son's young, and there's certain things that, um, as a child, that I went through that damaged me emotionally and mentally. And so, when you have a child, no matter how horrific your past may be or not horrific, depending on what it is, if it's not something that is uplifting and encouraging to where it keeps your child knowing that, okay, I have a future, then you hold that back. I have told my son, and I just told him a couple weeks ago because it was Easter, it was Resurrection Day of Jesus Christ, and I explained to him, I said, you need to thank Jesus because you're alive today because of him. And I told him, I said, when you get older, I'll explain to you why, but it's because of him that you're standing here today. It ain't because of me, because Soraya Hastings, the way I lived my life, I would have never had imagined or thought to even do the life that I'm living now. Whereas because of Jesus Christ, I tell him that is why you want to worship him and praise him and thank him, because he's alive and he was able to give you life.
Mm. I think that's amazing that you said that, to give him life, right? Because Jesus gives everyone life. Whether you believe in Jesus, a higher power, whatever it is, right? But the fact that you went through so much for not 1 year, not 2 years, not 5 years, right? And you managed to still keep hope. You managed to still say, I'm going to get out one way or another, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
then the fact that, right, that as a mom, you said, I got to do something different for my child, right? So, what happened in between the time that you were getting out and the time that you actually realized, now I have to be a mom to someone else, but I didn't have that?
Well, that there's a mother's instinct in a person, and at the end of the day, I knew I had to raise a child. I when I accepted Christ, and I was talking to the woman who introduced me to Jesus Christ, and I looked at her and I said, I'm homeless, I have no money, and I'm pregnant. Now what? That's when she told me about a program. And so when I said, okay, I'll give this Jesus guy a try, I meant that I'll give him a try, because I've given everything else a try. Every man in the world, you name it, I gave a try. And so that's when, in the essence of, at the end of the day, I said, okay, if this don't change something in helping me raise this child, then I'm done. I will. My other son was raised by my family, and I was going to figure out a way, because if this didn't work, I didn't know what else to do.
Mm, wow. When did you actually, because I know you said that you had issues with, validation and loving yourself, right? When did
Right.
you really love love somebody outside of yourself? Meaning loving your child, or actually saying, I love myself enough to give love to someone else.
Um, I would say it was probably when my son was maybe 3, is when I finally came to realization that I loved myself, and then I was able to love someone else, because I had to the first few years of me coming out of human trafficking, I had realized why I didn't love myself. I mean, even still today, I love myself, but I still battle with, thoughts, words that were said over to me. Because at the end of the day, that though people don't understand, what you speak in someone's life is worse than you putting hands on someone. You can hit someone, and that hit, in the arm hurts a little bit, but that pain goes away after a while. Whereas words stay with someone for years. And so what I had to realize and deal with was, I had to wash myself with the word of God, and I had to remind myself, okay, no, I'm the child of the most high God. I'm precious in his sight. He loves me. And so those are things that I have to do for myself, in knowing who I am, because of the fact that I've had so many health issues in my life in growing up, and everything. And I've had to sit there and say, okay, how can I, love someone like myself, and
Mhm.
turn around and love my son, because my son did nothing wrong, but I had to then be able to learn how to forgive myself for what I've done for my other child, and say, okay, this is not the same situation. And some people
Mhm.
have a hard time dealing with that.
Right. Right. Can you tell people a little bit how human trafficking is a system?
Well, there's three aspects, or um so human trafficking is a umbrella. That's like just a normal thing, right? When people just say human trafficking, but you have certain things, and you saw last year during the end of the year, you saw people rioting or protesting for child trafficking. So you have that sector of the human trafficking. Then you have sex trafficking, and then you have labor trafficking. And so when you break those three departments up, then you have to figure out what kind of trafficking are you dealing with. And so when you deal with sex trafficking, which is what I was mainly involved in, you're dealing with people from, like, there was the owner of the Patriots who got caught in a massage parlor, uh, back in 2019, and he paid money, and then it was quiet. So that's the system. That is basically, at the end of the day, you have hot spots across the country that people travel into United States, which is most commonly when, like, a person who met me, they came to me and said, "Oh, you must be from a different country." No, I'm from United States, and that bring a whole different look on things, because how can people in United States be trafficked? And so when you sit there and you look at it, it's like, okay, now you're dealing with money. You're dealing with, the most two lucrative businesses in United States is drugs and prostitution. So
Mm.
that's basically the system. You get a woman who, like, um in my story, I say that I was hooked on crystal meth and cocaine. So at the end of the day, you get women or children hooked on drugs, and you fill the drugs, and then you fill people with prostitution.
Mm. That was deep. I'm like sitting over here. I'm just like, whew. Like, so how did your journey from drugs, prostitution, right? Like, how did that really transform, right, the way you are today? The fact that you were straight, you were okay, you was good, you started, you got introduced to drugs, then now you're in drugs, prostitution, heavy, numb to
So
the world.
like, I just spoke on a radio show this afternoon, and I was telling people that most of the time that people are hooked onto drugs is because they're trying to mask a pain or hurt that they have gone through or is going through. So most of the time, when for myself, I was dealing with a lot of hurts, a lot of people who have scarred me. I had family members calling me all kinds of names, people talking about that I would never amount to nothing, people saying that I would never be married, nobody, no man would care for me, who would want somebody that is fat or anything. So, okay, well, let me do a drug, because why? I had my first child's father telling me, "Oh, here, take these drugs, and I can help you lose weight." So it was me trying to mask my pain. And then when it went from me trying to mask my pain to me trying to forget what I just went through and
Mm.
trying to deal with in everyday life, to where I was now trying to commit suicide because I don't want to live this life no more. So let me see how much drugs I can do to get out of this life. So that's where some people have to understand when it comes to drugs. 90% of
Mm.
people, men and women, who go, and then it doesn't have to be just human trafficking in general, people who deal with it is because they have been hurt, and majority of the time it's dealt with abuse or abandonment is the reason why people use drugs, is because they felt like, oh, nobody cares about me, or I'm not worth anything. So I had to in myself come to realize there's more to me than that. And that's when I decided, at the end of the day, I was done. I was done with life. I was done with what I was doing, and I needed something better than what was being shown to me.
Mm. So now that you've turned your life around, and now God is the head of your life, how has that really, you know, changed your life?
Well, like I said, I went through a program, and not no, and I want to make sure that people understand that it's not no 30-day program that I went through. I went through a program that was a 24-month program, a 2-year program I went through. And then it was extensive 2 year. It was structured, it was very intense. And then after that, I was able to go to college. And something that I struggled because people said, my family said that I would never graduate. And sadly, because of the COVID, I wasn't able to walk. But I did graduate with an associate's degree last year in biblical theology. And in the process, I've been able to write a book about my journey of how I got out of the lifestyle. Not only that, but I write in my book my actual life story of how I had surgery. While I actually was writing the book, I actually had surgery, and I found out why I was in so much pain during the time of all my life of having been human trafficked. And so I write that experience in my book, and to the point where now I work on starting my own nonprofit organization and sitting down with people and doing sessions on teaching other people in different parts of the country on how to get a person out, whether it is a man, woman, or child, how to actually physically get them out and what that looks like and what they should do, and have the resources for them to help that person get out.
Mm. I love it. So, for any women that are out there, for any children, any mothers that are out there who are going through this with any manipulative partner or abusive pimp, or or abusive, women, because there are women
Mm-hmm.
who are,
Yes, sir.
the trafficker as well.
Yep.
What would you tell the audience that's out there, the people that are listening? What would you tell them from not only being in it and being out of it?
Well, I would tell anybody that at the end of the day, I cried out to Jesus for help. So that's the first thing if they're trying to get out. But if they are looking for help, and if they are, and you have to be desperate. This isn't no, oh, let me just try. This is I'm desperate. I'm done. There are many ways you can reach and get out. There's the in the United States it's 211. In each state it has a 211, and they will help you get into a shelter or into a place of safety. And then from there, there are different organizations in different states that will help you to get into a program. If you are struggling, if you are a mom, because I do talk with mothers and parents. I was just talking to some a parent uh, actually last night at like 11:30 at night, trying to help her through this because she has a daughter. And you can reach out to me. I do have a website that you can email me or message me, and it doesn't matter what time, day or night. I will be there to help you to kind of get you through this so that you are able to help your child to get out. But there are so many organizations in the United States, more than what people realize, that are actually trying to make a difference. But it's so quiet, and it's so pushed aside that they don't get the recognition that they should get.
Mm. I want to say thank you so much for coming, for sharing your story. Please let people know where they can find you if they need that ambulance, if they need that rescuer?
Yes, well, you could go to my website at www.soraya.info. That has a link not only to um, to my book and to trying to get in contact with me, but it also has my Facebook link where you can message me, Messenger or Instagram. There's many ways you can get a hold of me. I'm there for anyone who wants help.
I want to say thank you guys for tuning in, and I really want to say thank you so much, Sarai, for coming, sharing your story, and just letting people know that human trafficking is real and that you can get out of human trafficking. You guys, if you're out there and you're being human trafficked and you're afraid and you're scared, Sarai is here to help you. If you guys don't know where to turn, right? Go and reach out to Soraya. Please share, please tag someone. If you know somebody who's in this life and that needs help, get them the help that they need. You guys, I want to say thank you to tuning in to the Sistermas Show. I'll see you guys next week at the same time, same channel. You guys have an amazing day. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.